Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Hope you guys are enjoying your evening right now. We are bunkering down, getting ready to expect some snowfall, and I'm a bit of a skeptic. I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit of a skeptic, and the reason that I'm a skeptic is because in this area, whenever they predicted quantities a while away, several days away, we barely get anything. You can say we got 2 feet, we're getting 2 feet of snow, we might get some freezing rain as a result. So I'm not convinced because they've been calling for this for the better part of a week. Now, schools, on the other hand, schools are closed with the anticipation that we are going to get some snowfall tomorrow. And because of that, schools have closed. And so I need to introduce you guys, to somebody who is joining the stream, is long anticipated and planned between us. And I would like to introduce you guys to my son. I'm going to bring him on right now.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good.
Can everybody hear him? We're just doing we're trying to do a test of this. See how it goes.
I can increase my mic volume if they can't hear me.
Well, let's hear. There's a little bit of a delay on YouTube.
Oh.
Okay, good. Matt Felty saying the audio is good. We can hear you.
I had my mic away from my mouth.
Do you want to do the intro? Can you do it?
Let me pull up another video.
No, that's okay. That's okay. All right. So the history behind this is that my son is obviously very interested in the fact that I stream and what I stream about, and he has listened and been in attendance on many of my streams. He was in attendance of probably one of my favorite streams that I did, which was the rant I did about Moses coming down from Mount Sinai. My total disappointment in the Israelites. I'll ask, but I already know the answer. So let's get the introduction out of the way, and then we'll say hello to everybody, and then we'll get into this and why you're on here and what you're going to talk about. My name's Stuart Davis, and this is my son. I'm a flawed man of God. We are humble parishioners at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. We're not pastors, not biblical scholars, and neither of us have been to seminary, especially the youngest here is too young anyway. We're not here to try to get you to join our church or donate to any special cause. What they're here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity, talk about a wide variety of different topics, issues, and current events, and give you our perspective on them, one that we think is reflective of your average Christian guys. I've been a Christian all my life. 42 years non-denominational Protestant. He's been one since he's been a year old, and we baptized him this past Easter. I baptized him this past Easter. Also non-denominational. We don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. We're just in the Word daily, trying to do it better each and every day. Sometimes we'll get it right, other times we'll get it wrong. But no matter what, if you're watching this show, you're hearing our voices, you can count on getting our honest takes on whatever it is that we're discussing. So if you were somebody who is new to Christianity, if you were somebody who is on the edge, ready to take that next step, you've felt that there's been something missing in your life, and you are pretty certain at this point that it's Jesus, and you want to follow him, you want to believe in him, but it might be something holding you back. Self-doubt, worry that somebody's going to take advantage of your trust, because faith is a big deal. It's something valuable to us. and very important to us. And it's deeply upsetting to us when it is, when that trust is violated, and you worry that, you see stuff in the news about corruption in churches and other places, and you think that uh, maybe that might happen to you. You also have a society that's set up to tell you that the things that you want to believe in are dumb or hateful or judgmental or all this other stuff, and you're worried about it, and you might feel alone about this. But let me assure you, you're not alone, and I'm rooting for you. I know my son here is rooting for you. We're praying for you. We want you to continue to pursue Christ, because that's a big, that's the biggest decision you can make in your life. And every soul saved is a victory. So it's not just us, it's the folks here in the chat, it's the people watching the show, it's all of Christendom, it's the heavenly host. We all want you to make that decision. We all want to encourage you to keep going, to keep honest, diligently, and obediently following God. And it's not perfect. You're not gonna knock it out of the park and bat 1,000 the rest of your life. What you're given for. So if that's all you needed, and you needed to chill, and if you needed to get out of here, you just wanted some encouragement, great. But I encourage you to stick around or come back and join us at some time and hang out with us, and maybe get a taste for what it's like to be around a bunch of folks talking about faith. If you were already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian topics and discussions, welcome as well. We run this very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. It's all about small group, smaller group members than most. But we're a small group. We're usually about anywhere from a half dozen to a dozen in attendance. Um, Usually about a half dozen in the chat, but we want you to participate in that. And because the chat is so small, that means that you have better access to talking to being part of the discussion. I promise you, put something in that comment box that I will read it and respond to it. So go ahead and join this great group of folks who tune in night in and night out, and tell me, what do you agree with or disagree with? Where do you think I'm right? Where do you think I'm wrong? What unique insight, experience, or perspective do you have that maybe we haven't talked about? Or maybe you just want to add on to something somebody else said. Share your opinion. Ask questions. I can't promise the answers to your questions, but we can at least talk about them. Maybe point you in the right direction, or somebody in the chat might know. With that said, you ready for this?
Yes, sir.
And I apologize, Lude. We are not we are not professional audio folks, so you might hear me in the background over keying over his mic. We are in the same room, but we are separated by about a good 10-15 feet. But yeah, let's get it on. Are you nervous?
Yes, I kind of am.
I'm kind of surprised that you wanted to go through with this, because you do tend to be a little bit of you do tend to have some stage fright, which is weird, because if you get him and you talking to him one-on-one, like he is as gregarious as I am, but you put him in the spotlight and he's like, it's not for me. But he really wanted to stream. He's been asking me to be part of the stream, or at least come on and be part of an episode. And so for his birthday last year, I told him we'd get it all settled out. We were gonna figure it out sometime around winter break for school, but we never really got it all scheduled out. And so finally we was like, okay, well, next time we know we're gonna have, it's not gonna be a school night, we'll do it. And with the snow coming in, I said, hey, what do you feel about streaming? And so he has picked his topic. His topic is, he wants to talk about Joseph, the son of Jacob, famous for his dreams, his wardrobe, and to me, at least, his strength of character. I had a guy I looked up to at a job I had several years ago, and he told me that he named his son at either Joseph Daniel or Daniel Joseph because they were two people he knew in the Bible that he didn't see. There was no account of them sinning. Not that they didn't sin and they were perfect, but their accounts showed them as very strong characters who did not slip up in the same ways that we saw. Hey,
Yes.
stop messing with your mic.
Oh.
Just talk through it.
Okay.
Sounds like you're rubbing it against. Yeah, that's a streaming faux pas. Okay, so let your mic go. Just talk into it. You sound fine. You're coming through just fine, at least over my headphones. So we're gonna coach him along, and he's just gonna talk kind of about what he knows about this, and I'm gonna ask him some questions, and you guys are free to comment or ask questions yourself. But first, before we get into that, obviously, greetings are in order. Thad the Man is here. Alex Moore is here. Nernaeth is here. Matt Felty is here. Jenny ELJ is here. And there we go. Everybody saying hi. Nernaeth has me ask a question to every guest, and you're no different, just because we are related. Do you listen to Sabaton? Son.
Huh?
You listen to Sabaton?
Sabaton?
Yeah, he doesn't know. It's a band. They sing about historic battles. So maybe we'll listen to it in the car sometime soon. Now that you've asked, I totally forgot that you were gonna have me ask. Let's see. Building character. Right on thumbs. Joseph is Nernaeth's favorite, which is good. Good. It's one of my favorite. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your first experience with Joseph and learning about this account and why it became your favorite?
Well, I was at either my old church or my new church. I can't remember, but I was like, okay, I like this Bible story too, every single Bible story. But then when the Joseph's dream came up, I got way more involved with it. I liked it for some reason just more than others, and slowly just became my favorite. And then my mom got me like a coat of many colors, as we call it, and I now love it. It's one of my favorite robes, and that gave me a good jump start too.
Yeah, we were on our way back from vacation. No, we were on our way to vacation this summer, and I have the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat was it play on it's on Amazon Music. I have the album on CD somewhere around here, but it's actually on Amazon. So I popped it in, or I pulled it up and we listened to it. And you were a pretty big fan of that. You liked listening to that. So what about Joseph and what happens is kind of makes it your favorite?
I just like how he has a good personality. He's very nice, and he does the right thing all the time. And when he could have, at the end of this Bible story, got all of all of his brothers in trouble, maybe even killed, he didn't, and forgave them for their sins.
Yeah, I mean, what they did to him was pretty cruel, would you say?
Yes.
All right. Well, so let's pretend that I don't know the tale. Well, let's pretend that the audience doesn't know the tale. And even though I'm sure most, if not all of them do, but walk us through what happens to Joseph and kind of where he comes from and what happened to him in this biblical account.
Well, what happens is Joseph is pretty much his dad's favorite, and he and his and he had and oh wait Israel loved Joseph so much that he got him all sorts of different cool stuff like the robe of many colors, and because of the robe of many colors he had many dreams, and one of it was we were, as what I have on my Bible, I already know it, but I just want to kind of get in the Bible. But we were binding sheaves of grain out in the field. Suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. And his brothers got mad because they thought that meant you're gonna rule over us one day. You're gonna be better than us.
Well, did you think that was a natural reaction to your brother coming up and telling you, "Hey, I had this dream, and all your stuff was lame, and my stuff was awesome, and so your stuff basically was ruled by my stuff"?
Well, that's not really that's a more of a natural reaction called jealousy.
Yeah, and I mean it's not that bad, but to be a little angry about it. And we know that Joseph's brothers, he only had one full brother. The rest of the other 11 were half brothers because Jacob had more than one wife, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there was probably a little bit of there's a little bit of rivalry going on. I'm sure if I treated you, I'm sure if I treated you, or how about this? If I treated your sister, the way that Jacob treated Joseph, would you think that, would you take issue with that?
Yes. Honestly, I would, because
Yeah.
I don't like anybody picking favors. Like, Arwen gets. Sorry.
Keep going.
Where my sister gets all the different things, and I get pretty much. Oh, here you get a Nintendo game card. You don't get a Switch. Your sister's the only one who's allowed to play the Switch, and she gets Super Mario Wonder and all sorts of other stuff, and
Yeah. So I mean, it's a natural reaction. This is one of the things that, and as you get older, you'll realize this about the Old Testament. And I talk about it, especially Genesis through Chronicles. It's so entirely relatable, and oftentimes we can see ourselves as the hero when if we really pay attention to it, a lot of times we're not the hero. Sometimes we're the antagonist. Sometimes we're not we're the guy. We're the folks who are sinning. And but it's also important to remember that these are folks who were deeply involved with God's plan for everybody. And these folks aren't perfect. They needed salvation. They needed forgiveness from God for doing some really, really poor decisions. Now it's one thing to be irritated or jealous of your sibling, but what did they do? What did they end up doing? His brothers. What did his brothers end up doing because of all this?
They get really angry and they plot to kill him, but one of his brothers said, "No, I don't think we should kill our own brothers." because it's pretty much our flesh and blood. Why should we kill him? And so it was Reuben who said that, and then so they put him in the hole, stripped him of his robe, and they saw some Ishmaelites walking by, and they sold him to it for how much? I think it's like 20 silver. When I just said silver, I thought of the Rudolph movie, Silver and Gold.
Yeah. So you might not understand this, but the Ishmaelites were actually cousins of Joseph and his brothers. So imagine not only am I selling you into slavery, but I'm also selling you to your cousins from up north. And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll take them and we'll find some place to put them, and we'll all make money off of this. We'll all make some money off of this, and then your sisters are like, yay, he's gone.
I would try and find a way to do one of those viral videos where they ship themselves back, where they ship themselves to like a different apartment or whatever place, like 1, 2, 3 Happy Dreamland.
Yeah, well, they didn't exactly have that ability. Joseph didn't exactly have that freedom because now he's a slave, right? Matt Felty says, sold into slavery because of a crop circle dream. Lame. Maybe you could probably imagine what was going through Joseph's mind at that point. What would be going through your mind at that point? Let's first let's go with how would you feel if you got thrown into the pit before the whole slavery thing? They just your brothers have grabbed you, probably beaten you up a little bit, and thrown you into this pit and are talking about killing you.
I'd be like, First off, I'm your brother. Why would you kill your own brother? And why would you chuck him into a hole just because he had a couple of dreams of him ruling over you? And that kind of makes no sense. I'd be like, what the heck, man? I just literally had a couple of dreams that I couldn't do anything about. I just had them. It's not really my fault.
That's a very relaxed. That's pretty a relaxed reaction, but I think what would really be going through your mind?
Well, I would be like, what the heck? But
be angry?
Yes,
be angry?
I'll be angry.
Would you be sad?
Confused.
Do you think you'd be crying?
Yes.
And clearly nobody's out there to help you. You're all by yourself, and the folks that you trusted and cared about are all of a sudden, have turned on you. Right?
That reminded me of the chicken trap meme you showed me.
Yeah, a lot like the chicken trap meme. Some people say Joseph was bragging. Yeah, and I'll allow that that's a possibility. Joe, and this is also something that's taught. I think the Jewish interpretation of this was that he's bragging. The impression I get out of it is that he's more aloof, right? Or not aloof, but he doesn't know any better. Like he's just ignorant of how he's coming across to people. He's like, oh, I've been blessed with my dad loves me, right? Oh, he's giving me this great coat. I love it. I want to show it off to people. And God's blessed me with these dreams that I keep having. And they're, he's just, something my son likes to do is, when he gets a gift or something big happens, he goes out and he wants to tell everybody about it. And doesn't exactly understand that how other people are going to take that news. And he's not at the age, or he's just getting into that age now where when he's talking about something that maybe we've given him as a present or whatever, while he's excited about it, somebody who he might be friends with or go to school with might not have that at their house. And hearing this guy talking about it might make him mad because it's something that they don't have. Matt Felty said perhaps the Hebrew has a different emphasis that we emphasis. that we miss. It might. It might. And who knows, right? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't change really so much the point of the story. I mean, it might make the other folks a little bit more sympathetic, especially if he was coming off really overconfident. And if that's the case, it's a pretty humbling event in his life that he's like, oh yeah, you thought you were top dog, now you ain't nothing. Now you're not at the top of the hill. Now you're at the bottom of the pit. Renee said, man, his dad got mad at his other dream. He did. But again, he might have just been like, hey, do you not understand? Are you just not aware of how this is coming across to other people? But it could have been, I'll say it could have been either way. It's just that's my interpretation behind this. And he just really just didn't know any better. And I think that's probably because he seems like he was pretty sheltered. And that might have made him kind of a jerk to people. It also might have made him kind of ignorant of what was going on around him. So he's thrown in a pit. They sell him into slavery. What'd they do with his coat?
They killed as I call it, and dipped it in its
They
blood.
killed a what?
A goat.
A goat. Yeah. No, don't speak in memes that people aren't going to understand. So they killed a goat and smeared blood all over it. And what did they do after that?
They went to his dad and says, Joseph has been killed by one of the animals. And his dad's like, oh no. While Joseph is getting carried off to Egypt.
Yep. So Joseph is sold into slavery. He finds himself in Egypt. And where does he end up?
He ends up at a.
You don't have to be exact. And you don't have to pause to look unless you need to clarify something. But just tell me what you know. Where does he end up once he's sold to a slave owner in Egypt?
He was sent to the captain of the guard, one of Pharaoh's officials, and
you can look up his name if you want to use it.
Right quick. Okay.
Oh no! If you're gonna do that, no, it's Potiphar. Potiphar was the name of the guy.
Oh, okay. So he was sold to Potiphar, and Potiphar knew that he was blessed by God because everything he did came out perfectly.
So it sounds like Joseph didn't let this very significant event really get him down. He probably was sad at first, confused and hurt, but what did he do?
He got right back up and tried again. Well, not really tried again, but tried to make the best of what he had.
Exactly. He didn't let the past kind of ruin his future. Right? He can't. It sucks being a slave, right?
Yes, sir.
It sucks being a slave. So, but the good news, I guess, is slaves were treated better than the slavery that we'd understand, like in American history. But you still didn't have any rights. They still could beat you and kill you if they wanted to. I mean, but he seemed like he ended up in a not so bad place, probably from God's blessing. He ended up where he did, and he did what he was told, right? He said, look, if I'm a slave, I'm gonna be the best slave I can be. I'm gonna do right by this guy and do what I'm supposed to do, and God will lead me where he needs to lead me. So what happens with Potiphar? He's been pretty successful. Does he get his freedom?
Well, he gets pretty much control of everything in the house.
Okay.
As the Bible says it, but can I talk about what happens next?
Yeah.
So the Potiphar's wife said, "Let's lay down and pretty much cheat on my husband."
Mhm.
And Joseph said, "Why would I do such a wicked thing? That's against the Lord's rule." And so she gets mad. And a couple days later, she says the exact same thing again. Joseph says, again, "I'm not doing something like that. I am not doing anything like that, okay? Okay, you hear me?" And she goes, "Well, I hear you, but I'm still gonna blame you for it." So she screams for help, and Joseph, she
But what
says,
does Joseph do when she says after he says, "Hey, I'm not going to do this thing," and she continues like she's gonna force him to do it, really? And so what does he do?
he walks away.
He didn't just walk away; he ran away. And she still like had his cloak in her hands, I think, if I remember the account correctly.
Yeah, I remember that.
And she's so, I mean, that's probably embarrassing for her. You know, she probably thinks she's beautiful, and there's no reason Joseph would say no, and then he did. And so she's angry. So what does she do? She goes and blames him for what?
Cheating on her and laying down in the bed with her,
You
trying
don't
to.
have to go in the detail. We know that she basically said that he was the one making advances on her, and she basically said he was doing all the things that she was doing instead. And how did Potiphar react to that?
Potiphar sent him to the Pharaoh's dungeon
Ooh, straight
because
to jail.
get out.
Can't. Yeah, it's not good for Joseph. He's doing his best, and we see that he just finished in last again. So now he's in a dungeon, which is worse than being a slave. So we went from being, Jacob's favorite son, which I guess he still is, but Jacob thinks he's dead, to a slave, sold into slavery by his own brothers. He ends up at this place, and he's like, okay, makes a name for himself, carves a place out for himself, and then ends up being accused of rape or attempted rape, and then thrown in jail. So now I'm not even just, it's not I'm just a slave. Now I'm a slave and I'm a prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens to him in prison?
Well, in prison, Joseph makes good friends of the warden, and warden puts him in charge of some of the prisoners. He was still a prisoner, but he puts him in charge of some of it because of how good friends they've become.
Why do you think he was friends with him? Why do you think the warden was friendly with Joseph?
Probably because of the same reason of Potiphar, that the warden also knew that because he was very lucky, had all sorts of different miracles happen to him, that the Lord is with him.
Yeah, he saw. I mean, and not just that. It was also, I mean, Joseph's own behavior, right, was probably a good reflection of what God wants from us, how us to react. We don't get down, we don't act sullen and quit on life just because something bad happened. No, we pick ourselves back up, and not only just pick ourselves back up, but trust in the Lord that if we do what we're supposed to do and just carry on as if God's got our back and have faith in that, that's not to say that things are gonna happen the way we want them to happen, but it's very interesting where it will take your life. And for Joseph, he says, look, I'm here, might as well make the best of the situation. I'm going to be diligent. I'm going to be a good prisoner. I'm not going to cause trouble. These people aren't responsible for what happened to me. My brothers are responsible for selling me into slavery. My my master Potiphar, his wife is responsible for making these accusations. They're just doing their job, right? And so, he's nice. He treats them like friends, like neighbors, and as a result, the warden, sees that this is a special guy. And so he's chilling out there. So does he spend the rest of his life in jail? Does he eventually get out? What happens?
So the king's cupbearer and chief chef come into prison because they offended him, and the captain of the guard puts Joseph in charge. So they both have a dream, and the cupbearer's dream, from what I remember, was he was right in front of a vine
Mm-hmm.
that had 3 branches, and it bloomed, and there was a ton of grapes that grew. So he plucked the grapes off and poured them into the Pharaoh's glass and handed it to him. And from what Joseph says to him, the 3 branches mean 3 days. In those 3 days, the cupbearer will be back in his role, handing another cup to the Pharaoh. for
Okay.
him to drink.
That's good news. It's like, hey, I got thrown in prison. It's probably pretty scary for him as well, especially when it came from the king, right? Pharaoh himself threw him into jail. You don't know that's the ultimate power in Egypt, aside from God, obviously, as Moses later demonstrates. But but he's going to get out. Joseph says, "Hey, your dreams is good news." What about the chef?
Well, the chef, after hearing the cupbearer's dream and what it means, felt pretty like, I'm probably gonna get out too. Can't wait to get told what I'm gonna do once I get out. And so he says, from what I remember, is that he has a stack of bread in a basket, and Pharaoh is standing in front of him, and there's a ton of birds that swoop down and start eating the bread from the basket one by one. And
You say what kind of birds they were?
well,
I can't remember. Does he?
I'm in New International Version, so I don't know. So I
You
don't
don't know if it was specific. Let's see. That's Joseph's dream. Let's see if.
Okay, I'm right there.
Hang on. Come on. There we go.
It just says birds on
Hold
mine.
on. Joseph was this part of the Bible. Joseph was handsome and attractive in form and appearance. All right. Oh, that's Potiphar's wife chapter. Let's try the next chapter. Joseph interprets a dream. There were 3 cake baskets on my head, and on the top basket there were some of all sorts of baked food for Pharaoh, but the birds of prey, so hawks, or maybe not
Mine just says birds.
birds. Yeah. So, all right, so birds come and eat it. So what does Joseph say about that? Does the chef get out? Get away?
So Joseph says 3 baskets represent 3 days as well, which also happens to be on the Pharaoh's birthday. And what happens is what he means is the Pharaoh will lift off the chief's head, like
He's gonna cut it off.
decapitate, and put him on a pole and go, right through the pole. It's just gonna get stabbed right through, impaled.
No need to be It's a pretty dark scene that you're painting.
And also,
So-
I could get. Well, it also says that birds eat his flesh while he's on the pole.
Yeah, well, now that happens. That happens when people are hung and or put on pikes or left on a cross, because Jesus was crucified on a cross, and they took his body down and put it in a tomb.
So no birds
Hold on.
would go. Oh.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were respecting Jesus. What was it? Nernaeth, help me out. Who was the guy who offered up his tomb for Jesus? Was it another guy named Joseph, actually?
Wild sheep attack, as Nernaeus said earlier in chat.
Yeah, he was talking about the story, the story that his brothers gave to Joseph. I think they said like a lion or a wild beast killed him, but it'd be funnier if they said, "Yeah, one of the sheep went bad and murdered your son." Anyway, so yeah, carrion birds like vultures, crows, and everything, they'll peck and eat at your body after it's done. But let's not focus on that part of it. All right, so Chef Boyardee doesn't give very good news, and he's going to be executed in 3 days. So, what were we going to say?
I was just going to say that I just noticed that 3 is a big number in the Bible, because 3 days it took for Jesus to rise up to the heavens. 3
That's
days
true.
for this, and I'm pretty sure there's one more thing I've heard about that took 3 days.
Oh, there's a lot of 3 days. There's a lot of significant numbers, or a lot of times where 3 is significant. What is the Trinity, right?
Mhm.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. 3. 3 days to resurrect. 3 days. It's a lot of that in there. And the more you read in Scripture, the more you'll see. Like 12. Jesus had 12 disciples. The 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph of Arimathea. Okay, that's what I thought, Dad. I wasn't sure though. Joseph of Arimathea was the one who gave up, who opened up his tomb for Jesus to be buried in, which he got back, because he only needed it for a little bit. That's what Chef Boyardee gets for flashing a white nationalist sign. So my son's not going to understand that reference. Oh, what was I going to say? Okay, so what happens after these dreams are interpreted? Obviously, do they come true?
Yep. In 3 days, on Pharaoh's birthday, the chief cupbearer is going, "Here you go, your glass, sir." And the other guy is, well,
You don't need to be so flippant about it.
died.
He died.
Unalived.
Oh yeah. Okay, so what happens to Joseph after that?
Well, Joseph told the chief cupbearer, because he said to please tell the Pharaoh about me, and please ask him to get me out of prison. And the cupbearer forgets everything about that. He
That happens.
remembers I bet you he was too hyper focused on, "Oh, I'm gonna get my roll back, yay," that he forgot all about Joseph.
Yeah, something you'd do. Would you forget to ask Joseph about me? Oh man, I was too busy doing my cup stuff. It's actually a few years go by.
I know. I was about to say,
a few years go by until what happens?
Pharaoh has 2 dreams, and he's called every single magician, every single interpreter that he can find, and none of them know what it means. None of them.
Okay. So what happens as a result of that?
What happens next is that once the cupbearer learns of this news, he gets reminded, oh, there's a dude named Joseph back in prison that can read my mind in dreams. I'm gonna go tell Pharaoh about him.
Okay.
So he
What does
goes,
Pharaoh say?
get him, get him,
Bring me this man.
to bring me this man.
Said and Pharaoh sent and
Get
called for
him.
Joseph, and they hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon.
I can see my donkey's face in the camera. I love that.
Yeah, she's up here sitting with me right now. All right, so they get Joseph. They present him before the king, or I'm sorry, before Pharaoh. And what happens?
So Pharaoh states his dream. The first dream was there were 3 fat cows that came out of the Nile, look very yummy, very delicious. And the next wait, no, it's
Hamburgers,
7. It was
right?
7. Yeah, yes,
7 hamburgers?
yes, some
Cheeseburgers, actually,
yeah,
probably.
no Whoppers. Some Whoppers.
7 cheeseburgers with pickles and onions and
Never mind,
ketchup
not
and mayonnaise
delicious
and
anymore.
lettuce.
Not delicious anymore.
All right, 7 cows.
So, and then 7 other cows that didn't make the cut came up.
What do you
Came
mean
up.
didn't make the cut?
Wasn't very as fat as the others.
They weren't
Not
just
as
not
thin.
fat. What were they?
They were skinny and
Sickly?
looked like sticks. Little
Yeah.
stick hooves.
Not any type of cow you'd want to eat, right?
Nope.
Okay. What happened? That so we got 7 fat cows, some grade A beef, and then we've got some cows that are starving to death.
The 7 very stick cows, as I'm gonna call them, eats the 7 Whoppers, and the stick cows don't change.
Okay.
And then
What was the other dream?
it was
What was the other dream?
it was so there were 7 grains of wheat that all came up, and they looked delicious, perfect for making bread. And what happens next is 7 scorched ashes of wheat pretty much come up and not looking so good. Might need to go to hospital or something. But once they pop up, they kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. I forgot. I think it's it was.
Oh, they eat them.
Yeah, the vat. I don't know how. I can't picture that in my mind. So
It sounds like they're talking. They say ears of grain. I think what they mean is corn, but doesn't matter. The produce, the bad produce eats the good produce, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the bad produce still looks bad.
All right. So what does Joseph say?
Joseph says, "Well, the Lord up there, giving me the answer, says that we're gonna have 7 years of plenty, like
good harvest.
Yeah, enough. Yeah, probably enough to open up 5 Burger Kings.
I would hope it would open up more than 5 Burger Kings.
I thought you didn't like Burger King.
I don't like Burger King. It's disgusting.
Why? I like it. It's
gross.
good.
Their burgers
it's
are
good.
gross. They're disgusting. They're selling chicken nuggets for like 10 cents. Do you want to eat 10-cent nuggets in this
I
economy?
haven't tasted them. Arwen likes some. I mean,
in this economy?
Yeah. She likes them.
All right. So what about the dreams say the 7 years of corn, 7 good years of corn.
Mm-hmm. And then the 7 stick cows and stick corn mean 7 years of famine.
Okay.
and why the cows ate the other cows and didn't change, because the famine is going to be so bad that you might not even know that there was 7 years of plentiful.
Okay.
And
So what does that mean?
that means Pharaoh has to pretty much plan all this stuff, but not Pharaoh. Joseph says, he says, well, what I think you should do is still eat the normal amount you guys usually eat, but save the rest up to save for the 7 years of famine, and maybe we can sell some of them off and get a trade offer.
Okay.
That's what Joseph's.
So we need to prepare. Basically, we got a lot of preparing to do. We're gonna have a lot of good harvest coming in, but we can't just sit back and enjoy it. We've got lots of work to do to prepare for some hard times after that.
Mhm.
What does Pharaoh think of that?
He says, "Good plan. Let's do it."
Okay. So what do they do?
They save up. They stash a ton of food, and then when the time comes for the famine, it becomes time. They have enough food, and other civilizations are buying food off of them now because of how much food they have, and
Right.
also Joseph got promoted to second in command, and so
That's a big important part of the story, right? Joseph, again, we got a guy, he's been in prison for a while, but he gets his chance and he doesn't say I'm willing to interpret the dream. He says what?
why'd you leave that comment up?
What? Don't worry about that. Don't worry
Oh.
about that. You're talking to me. I asked the question. What does Pharaoh say?
Pharaoh.
Oh no, I'm sorry. What does Joseph say? He doesn't say, I'm gonna interpret these dreams for you. What does he say?
The Lord's gonna interpret these
That's
dreams.
right. That's right. He doesn't take credit for himself. He's giving the glory to God. God is using me to help you out, Pharaoh. And that probably goes in a bit of how Pharaoh's decision made. Like, if God is on Joseph's side, just like Potiphar understood, just like the warden understood, that this stuff that Joseph is doing is not just because he's a nice guy. It's also because he has got the blessing of the Lord with him. I need to make the best of this situation. I need to do the right thing. And so he puts them in charge, right? And so they have their 7 years of plenty, and then they have their 7 years of famine. Now what happens during the 7 years of famine? Egypt's doing pretty well, but that's not where Joseph's from. What about Joseph's family?
Joseph's family are struggling like very, very bad. So
Okay.
all of his brothers, except for the youngest, Benjamin, they all go to Egypt to buy some food because as news has spread that they have the most amount of food. So they go to Joseph, which they don't recognize that Joseph is now this all powerful person in this.
Why do they not recognize him? That's their brother. They grew up with him.
It's been a while since they've seen it.
Been
Exactly,
a few years, yeah.
maybe 8 to 14 years,
Okay.
and
He's a lot older.
mhm,
Makes sense. Probably dressed like the Egyptians.
mhm.
Do you think
And
they're thinking that maybe he would be still a slave or maybe dead and not, second in command of the regional power or the premier force, most powerful nation in the region?
mhm. I would probably think that a brother that we sold into slavery wouldn't be someone who could literally chuck me in jail in less than a second.
Yeah. So they don't. So, but so Joseph sees them obviously.
He's like, oh,
But what does he do?
he he tries to hold back his tears first of all because because he's so excited to see his brothers again after a while. And what happens is he's like, "Is this your whole family?" They go, "No, our youngest is back at home." So they go, "How could you?"
Wait, is that? Hold on, I think you're
Oh.
you're getting a little ahead of yourself. What does he do? What is his original reaction? When he says, "I'm sure he's overjoyed to see that there," but does that how he talks to them?
I think he was a
He
little
calls
bit.
them spies. Remember?
Oh
It's like,
yeah,
what are y'all doing? Y'all are spies here. What are y'all doing here? Y'all are outsiders. Y'all are here to spy on us and try to take this stuff because obviously they're on the lookout for anybody trying to steal or maybe raid the country because they've got what nobody else has, which is a lot of food, and everybody's hungry.
Yes, and he puts them through a ton of tests, like a bunch of tests, and
He's interrogating them.
yeah.
Okay.
And at the end, he says, "Go get your littlest brother." After they say, "We don't have our whole family," and he's like, I'll give you a reserve at this hotel. You just go get your little brother and over here." And so once they do, Benjamin's over there. He kind of reveals himself, says, "I'm Joseph," and they're all like, "Wait, what?"
No,
I thought-
you're skipping a big.
Oh.
You're skipping a big part of it.
Oh, oops. I felt like I was.
That's okay.
I forgot.
What's Jacob's reaction when they get so they get sent back to get sent back to go home because they've got to get Benjamin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's Jacob's reaction when they come back and be like, they came back, they have food because I think Joseph sent them back with food. Let's see.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Sons of Joseph.
Oh yeah, they said you're not allowed to leave until you bring your little brother here. That's
well, they have to go. They have to go back to get him. They can't leave. You can't trust people. What's going on, Raph? That was a Jackass was a movie and a show or a series of movies and shows where they play pranks. Oh yeah, I told you they play pranks on each other. That's what Raph's doing right there. He's like, "Hey, I'm Joseph. Welcome to Jackass." Where is you are spies? He sees them. They're the okay, they loaded the donkeys. Hold on. Truly, we are guilty regarding our brother Joseph because we saw the distress and anguish, and as there's them talking to him. They did not know that Joseph understood their conversation when they were talking about it, that they were being punished for this. That's when Joseph got really emotional. He had to leave the room because he heard them talking and he knew that they were sorry for what they did. They knew that they were remorseful and they've been living in guilt with all this guilt for all this time. And he was going to break character, right? He was going to fall to pieces right in front of him, but he wanted to get this prank. He wanted to get his revenge in this kind of harmless prank. But he couldn't keep it up. He had to leave so that he could go and cry. And it's understandable, right? Joseph gave orders privately that their bags be filled with grain and that every man's money used to pay for the grain be put back in his sack and that the provisions be given to them for the journey. And so that was done for them. So he gave them what they came there for and didn't charge them for what they got. And then they loaded their donkeys with grain and left from there. At the lodging place, as one of them opened his sack to feed his donkey, he saw his money in the opening of the sack, and he said to his brothers, "My money has been returned. Here it is in my sack." And their hearts sank, and they were afraid and turned to trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done for us or done to us?" Because they think that now they don't know that Joseph told them told his servants to do that. Now they think that
They didn't give any money.
they didn't pay for what they took, for what they got. So they did. He sent them back, but they were under orders that they were to return with their brother, right? And so, what does Jacob say when they get back?
Jacob says, I said for you not to take the littlest one. And Jacob's like, you're not taking him. What if he gets hurt? I don't want him to get hurt.
What's the significance of Benjamin to Jacob?
Benjamin's the youngest after which Joseph was from what? Wasn't he the second youngest?
Joseph was the second youngest. He was the first he was the first child that Rachel gave birth to. That's Jacob that was Jacob's favorite of his wives.
And Benjamin's
the second, his last son.
And he's like, I don't want the littlest to come. What if he gets hurt? You guys are old enough. You can fight off a wild boar with your hands. So, but he doesn't even know 1 + 1 yet. And they're like, we can't leave until he comes with us. He's like, okay.
How did they end up convincing Jacob to release or to let them take Benjamin with them? Do you remember? If you don't remember, that's fine.
Yeah, I kind of forgot.
One of the brothers basically says, if anything, because I'll put my life, I'll make sure. I swear to you, Dad, nothing's going to happen to him. And who was that? It was Judah. Okay. Judah was the one who kind of stepped forward and said, look, we need to do this. We told him we would. We don't want trouble with Egypt. So we're gonna follow through with what we said we would do. We're gonna take Benjamin up there, and I'm gonna guarantee personally that he's coming back, come hell or high water. Right? So Jacob finally relents, and they take Reuben promises the sons, Nernath, I think, as I'm reading this. But so they go back to Israel with Benjamin, right? So what happens when they bring Benjamin back?
Well, when Benjamin comes back, what kind of when Benjamin is there, Joseph is still kind of falling apart because now his whole family's
well, not his whole family. His dad's still not there.
All of his kids, all
brothers.
of his brothers, and are there, and it's like, I bet you he's like resisting the urge to not shed one little tear. He's like,
yeah, he's got to be stern, right? Because he's been stern with them throughout the whole time. So what happens?
Isn't this the part where he falls apart? Or
not yet. Not yet, because he's still got this prank, right? That he's playing on him. So he sees him and he's like, "Hey, you guys are y'all came through.
You didn't pay me. Where's my money?" He says, "Where's my money?"
Hold on. They come back and they said, when Joseph saw Benjamin with him, he said to the steward of the house, "Bring the men into the house and kill an animal and make a meal ready. The men will dine with me at noon." So the man did as Joseph said, and they brought the men to Joseph's house. The men were afraid because they were brought to Joseph's house and expecting the worst. They said, "It's because the money that was returned in our sacks the first time." So they approached the steward of Joseph's house and talked with him at the entrance of the house and said, "Oh, my lord, we indeed came down here the first time to buy food. And when we arrived at the inn after leaving here, we checked our sacks, and there was each man's money in which we had paid for grain in full, returned in the mouth of his sack. So we have brought it back this time. We have also brought down with us additional money to buy more food. We did not know who put our money back in our sacks the last time. But the steward encouraged them and said, "Peace be to you. Do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has miraculously given you treasure in your sacks. I already had your money, which you paid us." And then he brought Simeon out to them. Oh, that's right. They left Simeon back. Simeon was that's right. Simeon was had to stay there as basically a hostage. When he asked them about their well-being, they said, "Is your old father well, with whom you spoke? Is he still alive?" So he's asking. It might come off as kind of a little weird to be like, "Why keep asking about our dad?" Was he jailed, Matthew, or was he kind of a guest of the house? What's going on, Porcupine? One of the guys who killed the Shechemites with Levi. Yeah. That's a different story. Jailed. He was jailed. Okay. He was in jail. What he said. Father's good. So he's checking on his dad. He's asking like all these personal questions of him. I'd be interested to see how this is all being how this this exchange is going back and forth. "Is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me?" And Joseph said, "God be gracious to you and show you favor, my son." Then Joseph hurried out of the room because his heart was deeply touched over his brother, and he sought privacy to weep, and he entered his chamber and wept there. They had the meal be served, and the Egyptians who ate with them by themselves, because according to custom, the Egyptians could not eat food with the Hebrews, for that is loathsome to the Egyptians. We'll get to that at the end of the story. So what happens? They're all around eating. What happens next? We get to the final part of
the prank.
Joseph's prank. Right?
Yes. So he goes, "I am your brother."
Nope.
Wait.
No, he they have a meal and they all enjoy it together, and then Joseph has their sacks filled up and sends them on their way. But as they're getting packed up, they slip one of his cups into Benjamin's bag. Right. And then Joseph makes the scene of finding it and saying, "I've let you guys in. I trusted you guys, and y'all came back, and I forgave you guys for not paying me, and I've let you eat this food in my house, and now this is how you thank me, by stealing." And so he's going to.
Now I remember.
Yeah. Okay. So now what happens?
Well, I don't remember fully, but I'm lost for words.
It's okay.
I'm lost.
It's okay. You've done a really good job so far. We've been at this for over an hour, and you've been hanging right in there. All right. So hang on. So they make a show of it, and they grab they take Benjamin into company. They tore their clothes in grief, and after each man had loaded his donkey again, they returned to the city. When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there, and they fell to the ground before them, and Joseph spoke harshly to them. "What is this thing that you have done? Do you not realize that such a man as I can indeed practice divination and foretell everything you do without outside knowledge of it?" So Judah said, "What can we say to my lord? What can we reply? Or how can we clear ourselves, since God has exposed the sin and guilt of your servants? Behold, we are my Lord's slaves, the rest of us, as well as he with whom the cup is found." But Joseph said, "Far be it from me that I should do that. But the man in whose hand the cup has been found, he will be my servant. And as for the rest of you, get up and go in peace to your father." So get up. Benjamin belongs to me now. You guys, Get out. Go home. And Judah approached him and said, "O my lord, please let your servant say a word to you in private, and do not let your anger blaze against your servant, for you are equal to Pharaoh, so I speak as if directly to him. My lord asked his servant, saying, have you a father or a brother? We said to my lord, we have an old father and a young brother, Benjamin, child of his old age. Now his brother Joseph is dead, and he alone is left of the 2 sons born of his mother, and his father loves him. And then you said to your servants, bring him down to me that I may actually see him. But we said to my lord, the young man cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. You said to your servants, unless your youngest brother comes with you, you shall not see my face again. So when we went back to your servant, my father, we told him what my lord has said. Our father said, go back to Egypt and buy us a little food. But we said, we cannot go down to Egypt. If our younger brother is with us, then we will go down there. For we were sternly told that we cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife Rachel bore me only 2 sons, and that one son went out from me. And I said, surely he is torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. If you take this one also from me, and harm or an accident happens to him, you will bring my gray hair down to Sheol and sorrow, basically to kill me. Now, therefore, when I come to your servant, my father, and the young man is not with us, since his life is bound up in the young man's life, when he sees that the young man is not with us, he will die, and your servants will bring the gray hair of your servant, our father, down to Sheol in great sorrow. For your servant became security for the young man to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then let me bear the blame before my father forever. Now, therefore, please let your servant Judah remain here instead of the youth to be a slave to my lord, and let the young man go home with his brothers. How can I go up to my father if the young man is not with me? For fear that I would see the tragedy that would return or that would overtake my elderly father if Benjamin does not return. So basically saying, take me instead. For what Benjamin has done, take me instead. And so this is when I think the dam breaks finally for Joseph. That Joseph could not control himself any longer in front of all those who attended to him, and he cried out, have everyone leave me. So no man stood there where Joseph revealed himself to his brothers. Joseph wept loud, and the Egyptians who had just left him heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless, for they were stunned and dismayed by the fact that they were in Joseph's presence. Pretty big reveal right there. You think?
I mean, if I was told that a brother I sold into Egypt
You
became
think it might be
king,
even dead. You don't think you're ever going to see him
Yeah.
again.
that we were rude to, and we just sent away without our dad's permission, and our dad doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Is now a king of a palace that we are in, and we might not ever be able to leave if we do something bad. I would be scared. I would be honestly like.
But what happens is they actually, I mean, they're shocked, right? The speech was probably frightened for a little bit, but they all come together and hug. That's one of the amazing parts of this. And Joseph kind of is the one who encourages this, because he goes, come here, let me see you guys. Let me be here, be with your brothers. Because as much as they had wronged him, he didn't stop loving them. And he forgave them for what they did. And he understood that this was all part of God's plan. He put faith. He had no idea what this had to do, what was going on. This was going to be eventually lead to the enslavement of the Israelites, and that it would be the foretelling, or it would take Moses coming 400 years later and delivering them out of slavery, and that they would establish themselves in the promised land and then later Christ would emerge.
Mm-hmm.
This was all this isn't the beginning of this of that whole series of events, but it's kind of the bridge between how we go from Abraham going into Canaan and then the Israelites ending up in captivity in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the funny thing is?
What?
Or what the interesting thing about this is? Judah's the one who offered up himself for what someone else was accused of. What tribe did was Jesus's bloodline from?
I don't.
He comes from the line of David, which was
Oh
of
yeah.
the tribe of Judah.
Oh yeah.
Pharaoh joins in the love in 16. Let's get that. So, but it's funny because this prank didn't really go off the way that Joseph, I think, thought, because in the end, he's the one who ends up crying. In the end, he's the one who loses his composure, but he reveals himself. It's this big, grand reveal. And when the news was heard in Pharaoh's house that Joseph's brothers had come, it pleased Pharaoh and his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, do this: load your animals and return to the land of Canaan without delay, and get your father and your households and come to me. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, that you will eat the fat, the finest produce of the land." And so they go and get him. And there's this big reunion with Joseph and his dad, and they move in. Now, Joseph dies, or obviously, so Jacob dies, and that's a whole different part of that's not really part of Joseph so much. Though obviously he's involved in that. That's not really what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, but
And Joseph dies, and then after Joseph dies, Pharaoh dies, and within a couple of generations, the new Pharaoh
is chosen, and he doesn't know anything about this Joseph, and he's evil. He's the one who.
Well, the interesting thing with Joseph was before the new Pharaoh, the Israelites were second-class citizens, right? They were. I mean, Joseph was a slave there, and that's the Egyptians were. The Egyptians were the only citizens there. Everybody else was just occupants or servants or slaves or something like that. And Egyptians looked down on other people, especially the Israelites. And so the fact that these Israelites had been given this land and given these boons from Pharaoh, when the new Pharaoh comes in, he goes, "Yeah, we're not having all that. You guys aren't on our level. You're going to be our slaves." And then immediately puts them into slavery. And that's beginning of the 400 years of slavery that the Israelites have to go through before God delivers them out of captivity with Moses.
The 10 plagues.
I love it. It took Charlton Heston to save Israel from Yul Brynner. You'll have to watch the movie The 10 Commandments. We'll have to bring that up. You'll have to watch it. It's an old movie. It's not black and white though. You might like it. You might like it a lot. It's really long. Joseph had another chance for revenge after Jacob died. This is why I'm so happy for my son here for getting as far as he could into this part of the Bible, because it is a story that really resonates with who we could be. And years ago, we had a guest preacher. In fact, it was It was Billy Dyer, who was on this show. I had him on this show. We talked about apologetics very years ago when the channel was still very new. He came on to talk about apologetics. He actually was a guest preacher at my church at the time. And he preached about this, and he goes, "Hey, because a lot of you guys will read this story and think that you're Joseph or put yourself in Joseph's shoes. You're not. You're probably one of the brothers, because Joseph has every opportunity to be, like I said earlier, sullen, defeated. He has every opportunity to take revenge. He has moments where many of us might even blame God and lash out, lose faith. Joseph is steadfast in his faithfulness. I think it's something that he got from Jacob because of all of Jacob's faults. He's faithful and obedient to God. And Joseph's just a good dude all around. And he consistently makes the right decision. And he consistently trusts in God. And though he probably doesn't, though maybe he does. I don't know if he had dreams that he interpreted and God was speaking to him through dreams. That's not in scripture. So we don't know what happened. But regardless of that, Joseph proves that God picked the right guy to send into Egypt. And so that's our stream for tonight, folks. We're about an hour and a half in. We are way past his bedtime, but let's give my son a round of applause on this. Gets a little flippant on this, but he overall very good performance, very good showing here, and you did well. You didn't come across as nervous. I'm proud of you. All right. So let's go ahead. So now we'll be part of the send-off tonight. Nernath, Matt Felty, my boy the Rafter, Porcupine Mayhem. Hope things are going well with you, sir. Dad the man. The Burger King nuggets are probably made from bugs and not chickens. Matt Felty, water burgers. They pre-cook them, then boil them. I agree that both of them and the nuggets are gross. He just had Burger King for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I was very disappointed that he chose to enjoy a Whopper instead of just having the right reaction and being disgusted by it. So he enjoyed it. Like, luckily, he did this stream and he has redeemed himself. And he is back to being my son. Getting ready to disown him. Jenny ELJ.
No.
Jenny ELJ. Anybody else? Alex Moore. Thank you, guys. Thank you, all of y'all, for edit the stream title. I don't know what the title is. Great job. Matt Felty said you did a great job. I wish Nico was here. My son is a big fan of Nico. I'll have to text him. But thank you, guys. Thank you, all of you guys, for being part of the stream. Thank you for sitting here and listening to my son. His first time being on a stream, something he's wanted to do for a while, and see him really do a good job, I think. But being part of this show, I appreciate y'all listening to what he had to say, and enjoying his telling of it as much as, or at least partly as much as we enjoy reading it for ourselves. For everybody who is listening and isn't part of the chat, thank you for being here as well for the same reasons. I always want people to be in the chat. I always encourage people to be in the chat. Understand you might not want to be or might not be able to be in the chat. I'm just glad you're here. For everybody who's catching this on replay, sorry I missed you. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for watching the stream. We should be back tomorrow night if we've got power. If it doesn't, if the snow doesn't break this town, it actually snows. Stop breathing into the mic.
Me?
Yeah.
That's why I was moving around. I didn't want to
You're
go.
huffing. You're huffing into the mic. Stop. Okay. If we've got power, if we've got the ability, we'll stream. We'll be back in Ecclesiastes tomorrow. It's been a great week so far. Everybody have a good night, and God bless.
Thank you, Matt.
Wait, you wanted to say goodbye?
Yeah, thank you, Matt Felty, for saying great job, Junior. And goodbye.
Good night, everybody.